Guys, what's going on? We've got this 79 series here that's had the absolute works done to it, absolute weapon of a car, and the owner now wants to get a ceramic coating done on the paint to protect it. So we all know these cars are super tough, but the only thing is the paint is not so tough. That's why we're gonna do the CC Evo on it. I'm gonna run you guys through the exact steps of how we're gonna do it. So first thing we'll do is we'll completely wash the car with Multi-Star to make sure there's no contaminants or anything on the surface. And this car's had a little bit of use already, so there's some dirty areas which we're gonna tidy up real nice before we get started with the ceramic coating. Sweet as, guys. So first thing we'll do is we'll foam the whole car with Multi-Star. So I recommend a 1 to 10 dilution in your foam gun. Just liberally spray that over the entire vehicle. Probably try and avoid doing it in brute sun, but on a day that's not too hot, sort of like today, we can do it outside, no worries at all. And then the other thing is what we'll do is we'll have a bit of rich foam in our bucket. We'll foam up the bucket a bit, and then we'll use our multi-sponge just to like lubricate the surface nicely and not put any scratches into the paint whatsoever whilst we're prepping this car for the ceramic coating. Cool, well that concludes the wash. Now we just have to dry off the vehicle. So we're gonna do a two-step process. First we use this flexi blade, which gets rid of the majority of the water that's left on the surface. And then we'll quickly go over it with our closed loop drying towel. These are fantastic because they dry off the majority of the water, but leave these micro pebbles which will evaporate in the sun. And this drying towel will just keep going forever. All right, cool, so we'll just move the roof rack back so we can get the ceramic coating underneath there. Really important that we get the ceramic coating underneath there as well, because you generally can't really wash underneath the roof rack, so the paint suffers the most there. That's why we're just gonna move it back and set it onto the roof tent for now. All right, guys, so the first thing we'll do in this car is we're gonna clay bar the entire car. And for that, we're gonna be using the clay disc in this case. You can run this disc on a machine or you can do it by hand as well. And the most important thing about this disc is when it's brand new, you always wanna start it out on glass because there's a protective coating over this clay which needs to be removed first before you can start. So the reason we're gonna start over here as well is because we've got slight overspray from this handle being color changed to black. And so we've got these slight dots here. And with our clay, we'll be able to remove that super easily. So I'm gonna just do that manually here with a bit of clay lube. So for clay lube, we're using our clear glass. Has awesome lubricating properties and also leaves no polymers or anything behind. So I don't like to personally use any quick detailers for claying because they always leave something behind and then we'll have to end up polishing that off again before ceramic coating it. So it's an excellent clay lube to use. Quickly give it a spray. Make the surface nice and lubricated. And then in straight lines, we'll be using the clay disc to remove these dots of overspray. And have a look at that. If you come up close, you'll see these dots of overspray here potentially might be a bit hard to see on the camera, but I'll run the clay disc over it. And with a couple of runs over, that's already gone. See, so we've got a perfectly prepped surface there now. I like to just go in straight motions just in case there's any scratches or contaminants that could potentially be going into the paint. A straight line is always super easy to polish out, whereas if we were to do circles and we put a scratch in, circle is really hard to get out when cutting the paint. All right, cool, well that covers claying this entire panel here, so we'll quickly use our drying towel, get rid of any residue that's now left on there from the glass cleaner. And that panel is now ready to be polished. Alright, so now that we've finished claying the whole car, we're just going to quickly give it like a one-step polish. It's not really required because this paint is actually nearly in immaculate condition still, but we're going to be using Perfect Finish, which is a diminishing abrasive, get you that really high gloss, but without having any silicons or fillers in there. So at the end of this, we'll have a true result and we'll have the maximum gloss that the paint can get to, and then we'll be coating over that to basically make the car look as best as possible for as long as possible. So first thing we do is we're going to go on our medium pad, put a slight amount of Perfect Finish on. Like I usually put on a little bit extra at the start just to like prime the pad up a bit. So this is not the amount that I'll have when I re-top up the pad. This is about a good amount to start out with. And the polishing procedure, so we've got a dual action forced rotation machine here, is that we will start on a low speed whilst the particles are the biggest in the polishing compound, and then as we work it, the particles will break down a bit, and at that point we will speed up the machine and polish it out to like a really high gloss. Then wipe off any residue and move on to the next step. Alright guys, so the car's fully prepped. Now we've put it to its like maximum gloss. We've decontaminated the paint. So everything is now ready to go. So we're going to be applying CC Evo. This is our 2-layer coating. So the bottom layer is the SiO2 and the top layer is the Si carbon. This coating is incredibly slick and incredibly glossy. It's fantastic for protecting all of these paint surfaces as well as your like plastics and stuff like that. So you can pretty much apply it to anywhere on the exterior of the car, including glass as well. Now let's get into the install, guys. So here's what you'll find in the kit. So we'll open the kit up. We've got 3 applicators here, a pair of gloves for the application. So we've got our prepare here, which is a mixture of different solvents and alcohols to immaculately clean the surface before we apply the first step of the ceramic to make sure it bonds as best as possible. Usually after finishing a car with prepare, there is nothing left on the surface anyways, but we do this just as a precautionary step to make sure everything is 100%. Once we've done that, we'll lay our base coat down with one of our first applicators. I'll run you through that in a minute, how we do that. And then after an hour of that curing out, we're ready to go with our gloss coat. Our gloss coat is really what's going to give us that real depth and shine of the paint. So this is the very first step that we're going to do. We're going to use our prepare. Pretty obvious, it's in the name. We're preparing the paint. So on the microfiber, we'll give it an even coat like this. Don't be afraid to put a fair bit onto the microfiber. It does look like a small can, but it'll get you through the whole car easily. So once we've coated the microfiber like this, we'll go up to our first panel and give it a wipe down as such. So we want to do a systematic wipe down. So we'll go over all areas with the alcohol. So this is going to clear off any residue that might potentially be on the surface. And then, so once we've wiped over this surface, I'm going to flip the rag to our dry side, go over it again, and that's going to make sure that there's nothing left over at all. So let's repeat this step for the rest of the vehicle, and then we can go on to the next step. All right guys, so it's time to get into the base coat now. So this is the first layer of our ceramic, the SiO2 part of the ceramic coating as such. So we'll use our first applicator, and we will liberally prime this applicator with our spray-based base coat. So when we're spraying it, we sort of want to be spraying it away from the vehicle so we don't get overspray onto the panel of the car. So just sort of liberally prime it and go fairly close to the applicator as well, so we don't aerate it too much. So that's a well primed applicator there. So at this point we will be doing roughly with the base coat, we can do about a door's worth of space, and just keep topping it up as you go. But with this applicator, it kind of just keeps spreading from a very little amount very easily. So we're gonna start at the top section here and do the full length, drop down halfway, and then go over the section that we've just done to make sure that we haven't missed anything. And the applicator perfectly contours to the shape of the vehicle and applies the ceramic very evenly and nicely. So the flash time of this base coat is actually very quick. So by the time we've finished applying our first coat, we'll be pretty much ready to start leveling it back off. And if you're not doing a half and half overlay, I would recommend a crosshatch pattern. So now it has flashed a little bit and you can see that rainbow type effect. We will quarter our coating towel as such. So we'll fold this into quarters. So we've got as many surfaces to use as possible, like this. And then we will gently but thoroughly level off what is left on the surface now. So we're going to continue this step for the rest of the vehicle. Just follow the exact steps that I was just demonstrating, and then we'll catch you on the gloss coat. All right, let's get into the gloss coat now, guys. This one's the slightly more tricky aspect, but with a few simple tricks, it's actually very easy to pull off. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the gloss coat bottle. So it's got a safety lid on it, so press down a little bit and turn counterclockwise. Then prime the pad again the same way as we did with the base coat, but this is a serum based liquid. So what we'll do is we'll give it a few drips on here to prime the pad up, make it nice and wet for the first application, and then when we add more serum to it at a later stage, it's just a few drops after that. So we'll close up the bottle again, and the application process is the exact same. And depending on your temperature, you want to leave it on there between sort of 3 to 7 minutes, and then level it off with a multi microfiber technique, which I'll be showing you a little bit later. So let's get into it, guys. So we'll be doing the exact same half overlap again to make sure that we get everywhere, and just systematically work your way through the entire panel. So now we wait 3 to 7 minutes, depending on when we start to see the rainbow effect coming through again, and then we'll start leveling it off. And once you get a bit more experience doing this time, you can actually start coating the next door and have a very efficient process to coat the vehicle in no time. So now that it comes to leveling off the rest of the coating that's on the surface, what hasn't been absorbed yet by the paint is what we're going to do with the 3 towel technique. So the way the 3 towel technique works is we'll be using 3 towels in total. So wipe over it with the first one. Once that's like slightly saturated, change over the second, which will have even less on it. And then the third one will go over it and make sure there's absolutely nothing left on the surface. So it's a third and final wipe over. And with this, we'll be guaranteed to not have any leftover high spots at the end of the application process. So this section of the vehicle is now officially completed, and in the next roughly 12 hours, we will have built our maximum gloss level that we can achieve out of this vehicle. And now we're going to repeat this exact same process for every panel on the vehicle. All right, guys, so we've had this question about 1 million times now, so we thought we'd best address it in this video. So we went from this bottle to this bottle. So what is the difference? So newer, better, improved formula lasts even longer and is easier to apply. This is the new tire gloss gel. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to show you guys how we apply it, and then you guys be the judge of it when you buy it yourself, how long it lasts. It's absolutely awesome, this stuff. All right, cool, guys. Give it a bit of a squirt on your applicator here. Give it a bit of juice. all right? And then we're gonna liberally apply it to the sidewall of the tire. So we like to use the People dressing applicator. It works fantastic for this sort of application. So run it around the bead. So we obviously don't want to get it onto the wheel, onto the rim itself, but then just work it in nicely and evenly all around. This stuff will stay on there for probably roughly around 4 weeks, usually. That's obviously not in heavy use or in mudding use or anything like that, but in standard use, this is fantastic stuff. All right guys, so these are the final results. This is the way you can protect your Toyota Landcruiser's paint in a really easy way. So just follow the step-by-step tutorial that we've shown in the video and really make your paint last as long as it can and look like this. Now have a look at the results, guys.